Good morning, this is Johnny Wactor. I play Brando Corbin on ABC's General Hospital, and tonight, January 18th, that's a Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be interviewed by the great Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5. Make sure to tune in. It's going to be live. If you can't tune in tonight, you can tune in tomorrow at 8 a.m. You can do that by going to www.power985.com, or you can download the Power 98.5 app. Either or. We're going to be talking about all things General Hospital, probably some things about my life, maybe some juicy questions, I don't know. But primarily, we're going to decide whether I should be opening up an OnlyFans account. So tune in and take a listen.
Hey everybody, this is Nick Mayhew, 3-time gold medalist and 3-time world record holder, and you're listening to Power 98.5.
We don't play the social game. We are social. Power 98.5. You're listening to Power 98.5, powered by United Angels Dream, your number one resource for public relations, entertainment, and multimedia. Contact them today at unitedangelsdream.com.
Hi, this is Dan Aykroyd. He's progressive. He's beautiful. He's thoughtful. He's intelligent. He's powerful. He's positive. He is Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio.
Empowering listeners from the US to the UK. Live on air with Stephen Cuoco.
It is a beautiful, beautiful evening here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I'm currently at, working on some projects I cannot talk about right now. I'm under an NDA, but let me just tell you, I am ecstatic to be back in Las Vegas, in this city, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to correct something here. This is not Sin City, all right? I'm reconfiguring the cities here in the U.S. Las Vegas is what I call the Big Apple. Los Angeles is what I call Sin City. And New York City is what I call the City of Angels. If you ever want to know why, you're more than welcome to find out. But I believe everybody got it wrong. Maybe at one time Vegas was Sin City, but if you know anything about Vegas, there's nothing sinful about it. LA, you go to LA, anybody who knows what LA is about and what happens in LA, that's Sin City. New York is the real City of Angels. So I don't care who gets pissed off, who's upset or whatever, but whoever came up with it didn't fucking know what city they were talking about, and they probably didn't even know what the city meant when they were living there. Because I'm going to tell you, this really is what I call the Big Apple. It's a small city, but man, let me tell you, for a city that gets over 43 million visitors a year and counting, on top of the opportunities of where Las Vegas is now, it truly, truly is phenomenal. So with that being said, I have a very good friend of mine, Johnny Wactor. You know him well enough, very, very well enough. He's very well established. I believe he's a lead actor, one of the lead actors of what I consider definitely with a steady role on General Hospital. All right, he currently plays and is perhaps best known as Brando Corbin on ABC's General Hospital. All right, he burst onto the show guns blazing, rescuing mob boss Sonny Corinthos' wife Carly Corinthos in January of 2020. All right, prior to that, to joining General Hospital, Johnny worked in dozens of productions ranging from stage, commercials, television, and the silver screen. He began acting in church and school plays at a young age, which fortified his interest in storytelling and character play. All right, so with no further ado, with pure excitement, I wish I had my applause still in my system, but I took it out. I never used it. Mr. Johnny Wactor. How are you, Mr. Johnny?
Man, thank you for the introduction, Steven. I'm doing great. How are you, brother?
You know what? It's a beautiful evening. You and I are in the same time zone. You're currently located in Sin City, Los Angeles. How is it out there?
Man, you know, after hearing you talk about it, I was like, I need to take a shower and then pack my bags and move to Vegas, man.
Well, hey, I don't blame you.
I gotta agree with you though. LA is definitely, it's an adult playground where you can get into a lot of trouble. Not that I do that anymore, but I had plenty of years to do that out here.
Well, I don't know if we should jump into this and wait to the end, or jump into it and wait and not wait and bring it up now. All right, so we listened to your promo video, loved it. You did a great job. I'm just going to go right into it before we get into General Hospital. What is going on with the OnlyFans? We've got to know more about it.
To be honest, there's nothing going on with that, man. It was I'm just joking, you know. But it is a really it's a lucrative endeavor for a lot of people. I've heard. I've been hearing a lot of women have been pulling close to 7 figures a month, if not more. So maybe if they offered, you know, if that was a realistic prospective number for me, maybe I would get an OnlyFans account. But for now, I think I'm just going to stick with General Hospital.
I believe that's your best bet. Also, at the same time, I would say you could get away with it, even if you were to keep it PG-13, you know, shirtless, maybe some Calvin Klein. But overall in all, here's my thought about it, and I'm going to say this from a PR perspective, and please dive in and let me know your thought. I believe, you know, where the world is at when we think about sex and sexuality, and, you know, identity, and body image and all of that, I say to each their own. You know, I'm not taboo. You know, my family is very much Mediterranean, European. And so I see sex and nudity very, very differently. But at the same time, one of the things that I'm thinking of when I think about OnlyFans is that the mainstream world, especially when it comes to our industry, Johnny, it is difficult. You cannot take a porn star and put them on regular television. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. So I'm thinking to myself, is there really an age limit? When someone's doing OnlyFans, you know, and I've been, quite a few people told me, and I mean quite a few because I did some research on this, had said that it is one of the most stressful, emotional, mental mind fucks that they have ever done, because you have to be strategic constantly on your contact, and you have to be very OCD to respond to your fans, because there's been several people who have told me, very top performers, that said that if they do not respond back to their, you know, what I call fans, they'll cancel their subscription. So what are your thoughts about where some of these people out there are making 5, 6, 7 figures? Are they really at the mercy of being their fans' bitch for the rest of their life? Because if they don't stay relevant and make their fans feel important every day, all day long, it doesn't sound like they have a life to me.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that could be said about any job where you're working for the dollar. You know, the more money that you're trying to make, I think oftentimes you're at the mercy of whoever it is that's paying your bills, whether that's a boss or whether that's your customers directly. You know, and it's the work that you put into it. You know, I could definitely see that, you know, those people, you know, that are, you know, at the mercy, you know, of their fans, you know, that's, you know, I don't know. I think it's a choice. It's kind of like, how much do you want to work? How much do you want to be tethered to your work? And some people love their work enough to where that work doesn't feel like work, and they enjoy it. So I guess as long as whatever they figure out their threshold is, as far as like time and level of involvement with their fans, then that's, you know, maintain that threshold, or don't go beyond that threshold, and they'll be happy. But, you know, I imagine if they get kind of, well, they have this goal in mind, and they want to meet this certain figure, then maybe they kind of imprison themselves without really knowing. So yeah, I guess that's my take on that. But what else did you say, man? You were talking about you kind of grew up in a Mediterranean culture, perception of sexuality, and that's vastly different from what I grew up. I grew up below the Bible Belt, and Christian upbringing. So I think it was a way more conservative. But over the years, I think as kind of culture has kind of broadened like American society has broadened their kind of views on sexuality and identity. I have as well, and I'm in agreement with you. Do you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to share a tip with you. So, my biological family is Italian Sicilian. I was raised by my mom's side of the family, so I'm Italian Sicilian. My biological dad, never knew him, Puerto Rican Brazilian, and raised very, very, especially on the Italian side, very Mediterranean, very Italian Sicilian style. And with that being said, I was then adopted at the age of 9 by a German family. Now, my parents that are German are born-again Christian. They're missionaries and also at the time deacon in the church, in every church, to the sense that they've ever attended and wherever the military had, taken us when wherever my dad was transferred to. But at the same time, with my biological family, we were raised like very much as if we were in, I wasn't raised with American mindset, and that's the best way I can say it. But even with my family who adopted me, at the same time, they were very strict Christians. I mean, strict, like Baptists. But at the same time, my mom always said and believed God does not make mistakes. And she always believed that whether she agreed with something or not, both my parents, that they believed in a way of what would be the Christian thing to do. And I mean, that's how they really thought. What would be the Christian thing to do? So with that, there were times I felt like I was fighting the church and religious teachings through them because I saw things differently and questioned a lot of things. But at the same time, when my mom had told me that God doesn't make mistakes, I questioned and challenged every single thing that you can think of when it comes to religious teachings. And it was quite interesting because there were times to where far few and in between, especially, diehard deacons and missionaries, do they stop and pause and think because it's always the Bible way or what God says in the Bible. But there were times that they stopped and paused and considered took in consideration what I had said or asked or challenged. And so with that, to relate to you, I'm very happy that I didn't grow up in a home to where my family put me in some type of cult reprogramming fucking thing out in the Midwest to get reprogrammed or something with all that craziness.
Yeah, well, I'm glad for you too, man. I can understand, the struggle, of like being in a religious family and then, having disagreements with that and feeling that, understanding also that, God makes no mistakes. So, your questioning and your doubts, with religion, I think are valid, and that's valid for anybody. I don't think that it's inappropriate to question anything or anyone. That's my personal belief. I know a lot of people might disagree with that, and that's okay, But yeah, man, kudos to your family and for you for being strong and courageous and your family showing you a lot of love and encouragement.
I appreciate that. Seriously, thank you for taking that in and relating where you could relate. And where I would like to bridge that is your recent article with Marcos Papadopoulos, and he just texted in, and let's see what the text says. I believe he had it. All right, here we go. Warm regards to my good friend Johnny Wactor for me. And I'm going to say, just told him live on air. There we go.
Love it. Hey, Marcos.
I hope he's listening. If he doesn't, he will retune in, but he usually does tune in when we're live. Oh wait, here we go. What does he say? He said thanks.
So he's definitely listening, man.
I hope so. I'm assuming so, yeah. A recent interview done by him with you back on January 16th. Johnny Wactor featured on Maurice Bernard's MB State of Mind podcast on mental health. So what a great topic to talk about religion and faith and family, adoption, your background of, where you were at and where you are in your life emotionally and mentally. Take us into what was happening, what was the narrative, the share like when it comes to the subject and subject matter on this show, on this podcast about mental health?
Well, it ranged a myriad of topics. Maurice's show, it was developed for, I think, not only as kind of an element of therapy for himself, but primarily to help others, to make it okay for others, or make it, it is always okay for others to, for people to talk about, traumas or things that are deeply personal and that they struggle with, whether that's, mental health, traumas that, happened to them or, that they purported. And he talks about it and he's on such a great stage where I think a lot of people are grateful to see someone that is in the public eye be so brave and talk about things that are deeply personal to him. And it's encouraging to, a lot of other people, to come on the show and share, their struggles as well. And it's, Maurice and I had a conversation after work one day, and he felt that it'd be great to come on the show. And one of the things that him and I connected with that we talked about early on in the show was just kind of this internal anger or rage that we had. And he was able to kind of identify where his came from and whether my rage came from where his or didn't. He felt a source of his rage was being whipped as a child, and that was definitely a possibility for me. I never really considered it as like the sole source, but just having that rage and always kind of struggling with it throughout life, or not even knowing that you have that inside of you, but something's there, like it's this monster that can be released, whether it's that short temper and whatever that trigger is, like, knowing that it's there and wrestling with it, just being able to talk about that. And then, by talking about it, you discover that there's, realms of help or outlets of help, like, therapy. For me, I sought out, substance abuse treatment. And I found by going into therapy and going into substance abuse treatment programs, that I was able to, get honest with myself. And by getting honest with myself, I was able to identify, some of these traumas or these sources of anger, whether they were caused, by someone else, or if it was just my own doing. And most of it is an inside job, it's, my own mind, so we talked about that, man, and not allowing, circumstances to make us a victim, but allow these circumstances to encourage us to find help and seek out solutions, for whatever that struggle is, and deal with it. So that was mainly what we discussed, man. And it's, if you haven't seen the show, I encourage you to watch it, Steve, and anyone else that's listening, man. It's really, really helpful. And it's beautiful to watch people kind of open up, and maybe it'll connect with you and whatever you're struggling with.
For those that are tuning in, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. We've got my good friend Johnny Wactor from General Hospital, who plays Brando Corbin. He's also recognized and has seen on, phenomenal shows such as NCIS, Army Wives, and Criminal Minds. To tap in a little bit further, Johnny, did you ever come to find what the triggers were of really down to the root, the nucleus of where and why you were not happy or felt disconnected from yourself? Where or when or have you ever had that aha connective moment of realization within your truth of why you were where you were emotionally and mentally, and why you made the decisions that you had made throughout your life?
I've been able to identify some of those sources. One of them is that I'm not enough, and nothing is never enough, and no one is ever enough. What that comes from, I'm not entirely sure what that comes from, but just knowing that is a driving force inside of me is helpful, because when I'm triggered and I'm angry, I'm able to quickly kind of assess and see, like, what am I angry about? And is it because something is not measuring up to the standard that I want it to, whether it's me in, a level of performance and acting, or something, something that I'm passionate about, which is climbing. If I'm unable to, climb a route that I'm, dead set on, or if it's a romantic relationship, or work relationship, and whatever, if something is not going the way that I expect it to, or want it to, it's not meeting my standards, that's a trigger for me. And guess what? Anytime I place expectations, I'm going to get triggered. Now, what caused that? I don't know. I've been involved in sports the majority of my youth. And so I'm extremely competitive. I was that way in schooling as well. And then I think just kind of like, society in general, American society in general, where it's, you're constantly, I wouldn't say encouraged, I would say made to believe that if you're not number one or the best, or, the top of the chain, then you're not enough. And I always kind of like operated with kind of like this chip on my shoulder. Or maybe not always, but it definitely kind of developed as I, grew older. And the more that you realize that it's impossible to meet these standards because they are impossible, it didn't necessarily click with me that like, oh, I should just relax because these are impossible standards to meet. It just continued to frustrate me. Because it was so ingrained in my system, to have the best, or to be the best, or to have whatever it is that I wanted, that it wasn't like I could just because I realized that I was able to kick it. It's taken, years of work and therapy and, treatment programs to, realize that this is something that will always be with me. This chip, this driving force of not enoughness, and no one's enough and nothing will ever be enough. But I don't have to let it control my emotions. I don't have to let it control my behavior, as I have in the past. I've allowed those things to control my emotions and behavior in the past, and that's really fucked up, a lot of relationships, whether it was working relationships where I got fired, where it was romantic relationships, where, I got, dumped or I broke up with them. All these things, where I allowed that to control my actions. I don't have to, do that anymore. I'm not saying that I'm healed. Like I said, it's always there, but I just, I'm much better not letting it dictate my life.
Did you always have the love, support, and attention by your mother and father?
I have to say, absolutely, man. I'm really fortunate. I've got parents and brothers and a family support system that I'm really, really fortunate to have, and I know that not everyone has that or has had that. There were definitely times where I was afraid to disappoint my parents, but I never felt unloved. And I was lucky to feel like I could come to them with anything, and I wouldn't be abandoned. Were they perfect parents? Who is? And they'll be, my mom would be the first to tell you that, and my dad, if he was still alive, would be the first to tell you that too. But they did a tremendous job of raising me and my brothers, and I'm very, very fortunate to have a loving and supporting parents, man.
Here's my intuitive thought. So with you answering that, there's a difference between a parent or parents being supportive and a parent who is available. So your parents were supportive. Were they always available? Did you always feel that you had the safety and security, knowing that, like you said, you could go to them? But did you always feel that safety and that security of support was always there? And you're going to understand where I'm going with this very soon.
Okay. I would, it's kind of hard to assess because as a child, I don't think that I had a capacity to realize if it was unsafe or safe. I probably felt that it was safer to go to my mother. I spent more time with her because, I was a swimmer, competitive swimmer, and there was a lot of time that we traveled together. So I was around my mother more often, so I was probably closer to her. And I was close to my dad, and I loved my dad. I trusted my dad, but I was definitely probably more scared of my father because, he had a short temper and, I think was very angry, and, he was, as I mentioned on Maurice Bernard's show, State of Mind, my dad was an alcoholic and an untreated one at that. And, from personal experience, an untreated alcoholic is an unhealthy person. You don't have normal communication skills, healthy communication skills that a normal person would. So I think, I guess to answer your question, were both my parents available, or did I feel that they were safe to go to? Yes, for my mom. My dad, I never thought that he would hurt me, but probably less available and less safe.
Okay. With that being said, I'm processing what you're saying. When a child looks for its identification, understanding this is my dad, this is my mom, child's like, what does that mean? What does that mean about me? What is my purpose? What is my value? What is my sense of partnership, my sense of placement amongst brothers, sisters, parents, when you had shared what you had shared, and here's the importance. To digress back to what you were sharing earlier about how you first handled relationships and connections or lack of connections, most people, and I can relate to you on this, tend to confuse what a narcissist or a covert narcissist, and with the behaviors and the identity description that you were sharing would fall, I would believe, more under, as a former grief counselor, as a borderline, if not a covert narcissist, to where, oh my God, here's this guy, here's this person just out for themselves. Oh, if I'm not putting Johnny first, or if Johnny doesn't feel first and a priority, it's like, oh my goodness, everything is my fault. He doesn't take responsibility for anything. He refuses to see the bigger picture of where he's accountable, because he's always making someone. I'm just throwing that out there as possibilities of what maybe people in your life were going through in their mind. But here's the thing. I don't consider you a narcissist. The reason why I say that is, growing up, you shared that your father had an addiction with alcohol. Never knew my biological dad. My stepdad completely was not a role model. So all I had was my mother. But I didn't have my mother because my mother put, drugs, alcohol first. The only male companion and role model I had was my grandfather. He died and had a heart attack in front of me just 3 weeks after I turned 4 years old, and I still remember it very, very vividly. And then everything went downhill. But even with my grandfather, he was a military veteran as well. That was, there were things that, how he raised me and even my cousin at time, because it was just us two kids at the time in the family, from, my aunt who had my cousin, Michael. So he was the oldest. I was the second that was born. There are no words when having a parent or parents that struggle with addiction, that are unavailable to know what self-love and self-respect is. You cannot learn anything from that as a child. And for myself, I was naturally an introvert, but at the same time, addicts tend to move very differently, to where for my mom, I'm not too sure how your father was, but please do let us know. Everything was quick. I always had to leave my shoes on. There were times I slept with my shoes on. My mother could go out to get heroin or her pills 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would be dragged out of bed. There were times I had to sleep with my clothes on, or I would be in my pajamas and still laying in bed with my shoes on, and never knowing how long I would be able to sleep, never knowing how long I slept, never knowing where we're going to be, because an addict's priority is always the addiction. And most of the time when we think about alcoholism or drug addiction, Johnny, it's not so much the substance that the person is addicted to. The question is what is the person trying to escape from? So it would be very interesting to know, what was your father running from? We know he was running from himself, but what were the reason and the cause of that he was running from himself? That why he was angry? He was angry because he was disconnected. He was not able to consciously and subconsciously be at peace because there was no connectivity of self-worth that he could trust within himself in whatever, his mannerisms, his behaviors, his purpose. So with that, I believe that's what left cause for you to develop behaviors and characteristics of, a narcissist or someone who is selfish or someone who may have blinders on. But really for you, you were looking at a very young age when it comes to identification, not so much as to say, what am I as a male? Because when we were really, really young, yeah, we know we have a dick or a penis, as a kid, and we pee out of it. But we don't really grasp the understanding of what does it mean to be a man or a male in a world, because at the age of an infant, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, we don't think, oh my God, I need to be a successful financial advisor, or I need to be a successful broker or real estate developer. We want to understand what it means to be safe and to have purpose, that we're not a mistake. Well, in my life, the addiction through my mother and my family made it very clear that I was an inconvenience. And I'm wondering if somehow, even though your father was a tentative, as you had stated, and I believe, but still, did it leave you feeling as though you were an inconvenience to him? That you knew the alcohol was more important than you, or the behaviors that went with the addiction, whether you understood those or not at a young age? What did that mean about you? Everything that we ask ourselves is, what does this have to do with me? What does this have to do about me? And I believe to relate to you that that's what left you disconnected. And you're right. I'm going to be 48 in April. And I'm still, would I say, cleaning up of my past. I'm still learning how to parent and self-soothe myself where my family could not do that, because they were unable to do that for themselves. And every single child in my family was left with something that we had to clean up. So I want to thank you for listening, and thank you for the share to let you know that you're not psychotic. You're not a covert narcissist. You are not selfish. You're still growing as a young man, but a man at the same time, where your child is still wanting to feel important but safe, that Johnny Wactor can be who he is as a child, as a young man, growing into being a man, already being a man with responsibilities, and know that your value is not diminished because somebody in your life or somebody who you would want to be in your life is putting something else first, or they're by putting themselves first in an irresponsible way, but also showing that they're putting themselves first when it comes to self-care, to show you, to enlighten and inspire you, Johnny, that what they're doing is right, because they're not only teaching you, but they're showing and proving to you the value that you deserve, because they hold value within themselves. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, man. I appreciate your understanding of addiction and substance abuse, and I can tell that you've done a lot of studying and developing a great understanding of that relationship that people have and what that does to them, and how that can take their energies and attention away from the things that are really important in their life, like their children. And I have to say, though, in my case, in my circumstances, I never saw alcohol in my house until I started drinking when I was in high school. So for the large majority of my formative years, I knew my dad didn't drink, but I didn't necessarily know that he was an alcoholic, much less specifically an untreated alcoholic. I didn't start to learn these things until I, discovered my own substance and alcoholic abuse, right? And start to kind of like dive in. So, my relationship with my father was not seeing that he chose alcohol over me or alcohol over anyone in the family. It was just my dad's got a short temper, like he can be an asshole, when he's doesn't know how to communicate or he's frustrated, he yells. So I was like, so the visualization of seeing him choose something over me and not understanding that wasn't my story. It was more just like, I don't want to get fucking yelled at, for doing something that seems menial. And so that was where I think the unsafe part, but the unloved or being not chosen first, that wasn't my story. Now, could be different for, my mom, or it could be different for my younger brothers. As I went off to college when I was 17, 18, which was, around the time that, my dad started drinking again. He relapsed, and, not to make this about my dad or my family, but, I know that, my mom and my youngest brother, their relationship and experience is different. And perhaps, maybe, what you described fits maybe of more of their kind of experience than what mine was with my dad. But nonetheless, being, the effects of living with someone, who's not getting help with some deep-rooted, deep-seated shit, it has its effects as well,
I believe with that realization, and I want to thank you for the transparency and sharing your experiences, Johnny, especially with, those that are listening and those that will be retuning in, is, and I haven't seen this episode that you had with Maurice, and I'm looking forward to definitely catching up to speed with what your interview was like. The best thing I can say, and having had the opportunity to talk with you before going live and, the other day, is your self-understanding and how you're not in denial. And if anything that you've learned from your past, and I'm going to honestly say, with all respect to your dad for the best that he was able to do, or for what he had known of, is you are smarter, you are greater, and you are, in a place and space in your life to where you're doing great, great things. And if remembering from our conversation, you are much larger than even where you're at today. So congratulations on all of your success with General Hospital and NCIS and Army Wives, and there's a lot there. And for the memory and for your family and your mom and your dad, you're still here. So for what it's worth, they may have helped shaped you to a certain bit, but what's most important is you're letting people know from your interview with Maurice and here and in life every day, Johnny, is that you're taking responsibility for yourself. Even with the recovery you had gone through, you're still taking responsibility for yourself and for what you're deciding in your life. And that is monumental. Absolutely monumental. And I really hope you're proud of yourself. And I mean really, really proud of yourself. And that doesn't mean you're arrogant or whatever. You have every right to feel proud of yourself for what you've accomplished, for where you're going. And most importantly, still, when I heard you talk about your mom and your dad and your family, there still is a sense of peace and dignity that you have. I don't hear victim. I hear someone who is very strong and someone who is still persevering in your life. And I really, really hope you understand that and know this, because that it's not what I'm just perceiving. It's what I believe many people perceive, whether they are telling you or not. So you're helping a lot more than you may ever realize. You're helping a lot of people.
Well, thank you, Stephen. And, to be honest, I didn't know where we were going, with this interview. And, it's funny that, this, the last interview and then now this interview, getting pretty deep and personal pretty quickly. But, it's often, kind of scary to talk about deeply personal things. But, you said it, man, like if it's helpful to even just one person, then it's worth, the scaries, man. And I appreciate you too for also being brave and talking about, your experiences and your struggles. You're doing a great service to people as well. And, I know that you don't look at yourself as a victim, and I don't either. Because I want to live, and I want to live a fruitful life. And, I want to continue to kind of like talk about and discover the things that cause me troubles and be brave and look at those things and try to find solutions for them, or try to find healthy ways of dealing with them, man. But, I appreciate the praise, man. Thank you so much. And, you're doing good work as well, brother. You're helping a lot of people too, man.
I appreciate that. And here's the positive. We all, don't know at times what it means for when someone comes in our life until we have conversations like this or whatever it may be. So we really are a reflection of one another. I know that that's said often, but I'm really meaning it. Is I do see you as an equal. I do see you and consider you an ally. And even more within this share, being live, being here with you, live on the radio, both of us in the same industry, doing different things. It's powerful, and I hope it's powerful for you. And, at the same time, it's very much an honor and a reward to know and to have a connection with someone like you, because now when I watch you on a show, and I already told you belong, co-starring with Sandra Bullock, come on a Netflix film, whatever. I mean, I'm letting your management, your agency, anyone who's listening or who will be listening and putting it out there in the world, in the universe, you belong co-starring with Sandra Bullock on some sort of film. I see it on Netflix. Let's go ahead and add it. Maybe it's a major movie on Paramount or Sony or whatever it may be, but you are supposed to be in a movie with Sandra Bullock, and I'm adamant about that.
Steve, we gotta find what the Vegas odds are on that, and bet the fucking house, dude.
Absolutely, I love it. I want to go ahead and play a live clip of one of your scenes from General Hospital. So let's see here. All right. So the most recent that my assistant sent to me. So we have one here with you and Sophia Matson. I don't want to go too deep. I know that one has to do something about a child, right? Should we play that clip? What do you want to do?
Sure. I'm not sure which clip it is, but go ahead and play it. I mean, it's, if it's, about our son, it's going to be pretty heavy and sad. But why not go for it, man? If that's the one you got queued up.
Okay. So it says here, Sophia Matson plays Sasha Gilmore on a show, while Wactor has been playing the role of Brando Corbin since 2020 on General Hospital, and he has been killing it. Sasha is expecting a baby on the show with Brando, and ironically enough, her betrayer, Sophia, is pregnant in real life. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and play this clip.
Brando, what are you doing here?
Is it true? Are you pregnant?
What? How did you even hear that?
From Cyrus, who heard it from my mother, apparently. So are you?
Brando, look.
We slept together, and ever since you've been avoiding me, putting me off, so I'm asking you to tell me the truth. Are you pregnant with my child?
Ooh. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, let's continue.
Dad. And I knew that because I was always careful. I never wanted to bring a kid into this world and not do right by him or her. When we were together, Sasha, I wasn't thinking about anything other than just you and me. Because you're incredible. For 1,000,001 different reasons, but if we did this, if you were pregnant with my child, I want you to tell me. Please, I need to know.
Yes. The baby is yours.
I wonder how many episodes it took for her to finally say it, because back when I used to watch soap operas, it took like freaking 3 weeks before they finally got an answer on something.
Yeah, I think it was about that. You know how they got to milk it and drive everyone crazy. It drives the actors crazy too. It's like, come on, like we would tell someone by now, right?
Absolutely. See, and to watch that with having the rapport that we have now makes it even more rewarding. So I am very grateful to be in this seat, in, you know, side by side with you, Johnny, in this moment, because to have watched that and to hear it and to be live with you right now really brings in a different feel, you know, for it, the experience. So with that, what was going on with your life? What was happening with you behind the scenes, in front of the scenes? What does it take to be in that moment, to be, you know, Johnny Wactor, but also at the same time to be, you know, your character?
Great questions. Well, what was going on in my life when we were filming those scenes, I don't know. I don't remember. But you know, what, as far as like what it takes to, you know, be in the scene, it's, you know, for me, all my acting work is based off imagination. I don't mix real life stuff or real life memories or experiences with whatever these circumstances are in the scene that I'm playing. You know, if there's a similar circumstance, I may think about a experience in my life to kind of gain rapport. But in this circumstance, well, I won't say that. Never mind. But I always use imagination. I find that your imagination can be as strong and fertile, if not stronger and more fertile than your real life memories. Because you know, if you think of your imagination as a method of believing in something, right? You know, people will die for their beliefs, right? You know, whether that's religion, whether that's, you know, their version of the truth. People will go to their graves believing whatever it is that they believe. So with that logic, you know, if you spend enough time in your imagination concocting something and making those circumstances your truth, your reality, that thing that you believe in, you know, then you can make whatever those circumstances are come across as real. So, you know, I try to apply that, you know, with whatever scenes, you know, that I have. And I've been, you know, doing that for the last, like, you know, that was kind of the method of acting that I've chosen to employ about, you know, 5-6 years ago. And I find it to be, you know, the most effective. And so, you know, in that scene, it was, you know, I've gotten this, you know, beautiful woman pregnant that, you know, I'm very much attracted and into, but you know, I wasn't prepared to get her pregnant. Like, holy shit, what are we going to do? Also, you know, the other circumstance being that, you know, Cyrus, the guy that I work for, is he's a killer, you know, and he also is in love with, or not in love with, but fancies, you know, the woman that I got pregnant. So there's a lot of things that make these circumstances really dicey. So, you know, just getting in there and believing all these things by just spending time and spinning is what I like to call it. Just allowing your mind to kind of, take a walk with these key points of belief and seeing where your brain takes you. So then when you get on set, I'm just reacting to the people in the scene who are doing the same thing essentially as me, just, playing. We're just acting.
Gonna play a little bit more.
Okay.
Big news, huh?
Yeah, kind of the biggest. Look, I don't want to tell you what to do or shove myself in your business or anything, but at the same time, I'd like to support you, Sasha. And I'd be really happy if I can have a place in my kid's life.
So, this completely blindsided me. Just like you, I wasn't thinking about anything other than us that night. I should have been more careful.
We both should have.
I'm the one who told you I was on birth control, and I was. But I hadn't been consistent, and I knew that. So I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but I get what you're saying about wanting to be involved, and I'm totally open to that.
Thanks. Because even though this is the last thing I expected, I'm really glad this happened.
That's Johnny Wactor playing Brando Corbin on General Hospital. What makes a good actor a great actor?
Man, what makes a good actor a great actor?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. I don't know, because I'm not a great actor, so I can't tell you. I would say, I guess, from watching and working with some great actors in my career, that I think what makes a great actor is the consistency with being free. The art of not giving a fuck. And that's really difficult to do. Especially, you're on set, you've got hundreds of people there, in the crew, sometimes, the background actors as well. And everything's quiet. And, if it's just a scene between you and one other person, and it says on the script, you got to cry. And there's millions and millions of dollars going into this production. And each second, every minute is costing thousands and thousands of dollars. It's like, that's a lot of pressure. So, to go in there with an open mind and be free, and not think about all that white noise, and do that consistently, I think that's one of the things that makes a good actor a great actor, to be able to do that all the time. And be able to be, be in the moment with the people in the scene, not just worried about your own world. It's interacting and responding truthfully to someone else.
I really want to thank everyone from here and all around the world for tuning in live on air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 satellite radio. My dear friend, special guest, Johnny Wactor, playing Brando Corbin on one of the best and most top, shows out there for daytime soaps, General Hospital. When are you winning a daytime Emmy? Aren't you supposed to be having one?
Am I supposed to be having one?
Yeah,
I don't know.
To have one?
I think the Emmys for 2021, I think those will be coming up, I think, this summertime. But I'm going to submit this year. Whether I get nominated and whether I win, that's out of my control, man.
Well,
it'd be an honor.
It would be, and I'm going to proclaim Johnny Wactor to be a daytime Emmy winner, soon to be co-starring with Sandra Bullock on several films. Who would be the ideal actress that you would like to work with, Johnny?
Oh, man. Right now, that's a good question.
Jennifer Lawrence?
I'd like to work with Jennifer Lawrence. I mean,
Okay.
hell, she's an Academy Award winner. She's young, talented. I loved her and Mother, and Joy, and Silver Linings Playbook. That'd be an awesome tandem.
Who would you like to give a shout out to this evening?
I want to give a shout out to Marcos for in contact with each other, and always being a fantastic supporter. And then my mom, who's listening, my girlfriend who's listening, and everyone else who decided to tune in and listen to you and I. So
I appreciate that. And where would be the best go-to spot on social media to connect with you and all things Johnny Wactor?
That would be Johnny Wactor. JOHNNY Actor. It's pretty easy to spell. You can follow me on Twitter too. Yeah, I'm not on Facebook, so don't look for me there. If you find a Johnny Wactor account, it's fake.
Well, we've got to give the Johnny Wactor handle, or at least the Twitter handle as well, because I found that interesting when you posted the promo video and tagged me. Wactor Tractor. Why? What is that reference to?
This girl, Christina Montanaro, I was her date to a formal, I think it was my freshman year in college, and she called me Wactor Tractor.
Is there a meaning to the tractor part? I mean,
I will neither confirm nor deny.
All right. I still think it's great. I'm so glad you used that, though. It's really, really good.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to thank you for tuning in live on air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5. This episode with Johnny Wactor from General Hospital playing Brando Corbin. And I'm taking it a little bit slow because when I start going fast, I start getting tongue-tied. Will re-air tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Eastern. Once again, 8 a.m., 2 p.m., this episode with Johnny Wactor will re-air tomorrow, Thursday, January 20th, 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. I already thought it was Thursday. I'm still a day ahead. How has time been going for you? Do you feel like you're in a Wednesday today? Where are you at?
Dude, Steve, I don't know how fucking old I am these days, man. Yeah. I don't know what day it is.
Well, you look incredible, and thanks for sending over the photos because they're really phenomenal. You got any photo shoots, any projects, anything coming up for 2022 you and your fans and our listeners should know about?
I don't have any photo shoots planned yet, but I am planning on shooting a independent film with some really talented and close friends of mine. It's called American Songnar, and we will be shooting some of it this summer and some of it in the fall, and hopefully will be released in 2023. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Johnny Wactor, best known as Brando Corbin on ABC's General Hospital. Tune in tomorrow, Thursday, January 20th, 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Time to catch up, recap. If you're just tuning in, tune into the middle of this episode. You can catch all things Johnny Wactor on Power 98.5, satellite radio at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. tomorrow, January 20th, Thursday. Any special plans for the weekend, Johnny, or are you laying low?
Man, I am going to be climbing somewhere outside, getting on the ropes and getting on the rock. So, not the crack rock, though.
No. You don't need that. You got enough energy.
That's right.
Hold the line. You're going to close out with us. And I definitely just want to, have a little bit of a convo with you before we move forward this evening, and want to thank you again for being with us. Thank you to everyone here and throughout the world for being with Johnny Wactor and I here on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio, live on air with Stephen Cuoco. Have a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from here and all around the world. I'm Stephen Cuoco.
Find us on your socials and let's connect.